Hey, what's going on, good people? It's Gardner Douglas, your oyster ninja, and happy March. Happy March, y'all. As you can probably hear, my throat isn't the best. So I do apologize about I do apologize about only dropping one episode last month. But as you can hear, my voice box wasn't the best. But anyway, here we are in March, feeling a little better. And it's Women's Month, right? That's what I hear. That's the word on the street. So what I wanted to do, and I had a couple ideas, but I think what better way to honor Women's Month? Um, let's go over just some of the people we've had on the podcast um, that are killing it. Starting with was Miss Jordan Powell from JJ McDonald. We had an awesome conversation uh, about the specials they were doing during Valentine's Day. And Jordy, I call her. We've shucked together a whole bunch over the years, and she's just a great person. Um, in that podcast episode, the last podcast episode I did with Jordy, we went over oysters and caviar. So if you missed that episode, check it out. It was a real fun episode. Um, we shucked, we ate caviar. We talked about oysters. We talked about flavor profile and along with caviar tasting notes. So that was a real cool episode. So if you missed that one, check it out. So next up was Miss Emily D'Souza, um, who I call the most sustainable person uh, in the industry. One of the most sustainable people in the industry. She's very interesting. That was a fun episode also. If you're not following her, she is Seaside with Emily on Instagram and I believe TikTok. But it was a fun episode. We talked a lot about things that was happening in the industry, but we also talked a little bit about the Netflix special, Seaspiracy, which was a real trending topic. But if you didn't listen to that episode, that was a fun episode, and she's like killing it on social media. I love her social media. She teaches you about, of course, sustainability, also sustainable eating options. A lot of now I think she's focusing on like the tin fish and just some other things. But she breaks things down to where like normal people like myself can understand it and digest it wholly and, get a grasp of what is really going on. So go check out Seaside with Emily. So next up was Kira Muzia, and she has the podcast. So you want to be a marine biologist? That was a crazy episode. We actually, she came on my podcast. I went on her podcast. I to this day, the episode I did with her is one of my favorite episodes that I've done on podcasts, interviews, hands down on YouTube, anything. I just love the feel, and she's like super knowledgeable. And because she also had an oyster background, she did some work with, I think it was either Chesapeake Bay Foundation and Oyster Recovery also was in the mix. But she's just really knowledgeable on a lot of aspects. And of course, she has the podcast, so she talks to some of the most interesting people also. So if you haven't listened to her podcast, go check it out. So you want to be a marine biologist? I think her Instagram is marine.bio. If that's wrong, I'm gonna fix it in the description. But go check her out. Go check her podcast out. And yeah, that was a fun episode also. Next up is one half of Fisher's Island Oyster Farm, Miss Sarah Malinowski. Um, Now, she came on the podcast with her husband, Steve, and we had a great conversation. A great conversation. They have you can just tell the bond in between them. But behind every great woman is a great man, or is it behind? It doesn't matter, right? Because they're working on a great oyster farm and they have a great partnership. And that's all that really matters. And that was a great episode. So if you've never had Fisher Islands oysters, check them out. So they have the hatchery, of course, they have the oyster farm, and they talked about, how um, their oysters can be so different in just, not a far distance, but the flavor profile is so profound. And I can't wait to take a trip up there. They're really active in the industry with all the nonprofits and things going on. So check them out. Another, thank you. And I'm looking over my podcast shows. I got over 50 some episodes now. It's amazing, right? Like who would have known like I would make it to 50 episodes? Next up is Miss Imani Black. Miss Imani is the founder of Minorities in Aquaculture. And she is really trend setting. She is really trailblazing. She is killing it. She's taking over, and she's gonna be a name you're gonna be hearing about for the next decades and decades. I'm really proud of the things that she's doing because it takes a lot for people to take that first step, and not just take the first step, but she's taking the first step on the right issues. Bringing minorities, specifically women, females, minorities, not just brown, white, everybody, females in general. And she's just trying to do the right thing. Because, when she came up, she didn't see a lot of females in the industry and, not always being treated right, whether it be because of race or gender. So check out Minorities in Aquaculture. Shout out to Imani. She's killing it. Next up is Miss Deanna from Caviar Star. And y'all know I love me some Caviar Star. I just love it. The hackleback, the sturgeon, the white sturgeon, the all of it. I love it. We had a fun podcast interview a while back. This was in 2020 in September. And we talked about the different caviars that they carry. We also talked about truffles, and we talked about snail caviar, snail eggs. That was just a great conversation. I had no idea it was so much going into caviar and the processing. Yeah, she works hard. She works hard. And so go give her a follow, go check her out, go order some caviar. Look up Caviar Star. The next episode, one of my female spotlights was Eden the Foodie. Of course, Eden is the creator of blackfoodie.co, and just a great person. It wasn't a video podcast, like it was no video to it. It was just us talking. It was just the audio, but still one of my favorite episodes. We talked about food equality. We talked about equality, period. And basically her journey and why she even started this. And she actually inspired me a lot. Also, just talking about, the different traveling she was doing around the food and things like that. So now I'm starting to travel more. Shout out to all the tips, but go check out Eating the Foodie, blackfoodie.co. Check that out. That's a fun episode. Like I said, that was back in August of 2020. Man, look at how time flies, right? Another one is Miss Jasmine Norton, chef of the Urban Oyster. Since the podcast episode, she has been on TV so many daggone times, so many articles. She's just doing great things. And I just want to give her a shout out also. But the Urban Oyster up in Baltimore, also doing like food and festivals and stuff like that. I actually did a festival with her last summer at National Harbor where we killed it. I was shucking raw oysters, and they also had grilled and char grilled oysters. So fun. Oysters were so good. So I can't wait to work with her again. Yeah. So I'm not going to go into all the females, but we had I had a bunch of females on the podcast who all had great stories. So the point of this is to check out the podcast, listen to everybody's story. This is not just about oysters. This is about the people in the industry. And that's the Oyster Ninja podcast. Appreciate y'all for listening. This episode is brought to you by you. Thank you for listening. Appreciate that. I am looking for sponsors. So if you want to sponsor an episode, if you want to sponsor multiple episodes, or even a social media post, shoot me an email at oysterninjapc and we can make it happen. oysterninjapc@gmail.com. And until the next time, peace. And I got a good next episode waiting for you also. I'm almost done editing it. And I think you're going to be surprised. There's somebody I left off the list. She's back for a new episode. She's the only person to come on the podcast twice. If you can guess who it is, maybe I'll just send you a t-shirt. Shoot me an email with your Ninja PC. And if you aren't following me on social media, the mobile roll bar is s.s.shucking. And the podcast is Oyster Ninja PC. So follow me on the gram, y'all. All right. Peace. Be safe out there.